The end. What? It was such a miss. It was such a. They threw up a grapefruit and they swung and they missed. The father walks in to the hospital room and Light is laying in the bed or whatever, and he says, it was you. And Light says, do you want to know how I did it? At every point in this movie, when he's asked about the Death Note, he tells. Misa asks him. They're sitting in a. Light is in the gymnasium. He's in the gym. This is how Misa finds out that he's at a Death Note. He's in the gym, and she sort of wants to know how about this kid who died. She wants to know how it happened. She wants to hear about all the stuff. And so she sees he has a book called The Death Note, and she says, "Oh, what's that?" He says, "Oh, nothing." She says, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Do you really want to know?" Like, geez, dude. Well, she didn't even have to ask you again. All she did was say, "Okay," and now you're giving up the information. This is not Light, right? This is not how he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be super smart, super cautious, paranoid. This is not somebody. These are not the same people. So don't call him Light. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where my issue is with them calling him Light. He's just sloppy. He's sloppy. So at the end, he's having a conversation with the father, right? And he tells him, "How'd you do it?" And then he explains to him what happened in the last 20 minutes of the movie, rather than explaining to him how the hell he's killing people, right? It's like that. He's asking you a question as your father, who does not know what's going on, and you're explaining to him what the audience is interested in seeing. The last piece of what happens, which I'll get into in a little bit. The last piece of what happens. So even inside the end of it, which is, in the way that it ends, is absolutely crazy. It just ends on a cliffhanger. You're like, this movie could have saved itself if at the end, Light kills his father. Now you've seen the true descent. Now, I mean, it seems like they're doing a sequel, but now they're showing you that he now has given humanity up. He is now all in. He wants to. He's gonna go down with the ship. He's gonna die as a god in the world that he's in, right? But to leave it off with him just explaining what's going on, and he's not being arrested. Elle is writing his name down. I mean, they've changed the rules of the book. So let's get into the end where Elle finds a sheet of the Death Note somewhere, right? And he has a pen. And he's like, I'm gonna write down Light's name. Dude, you can't just go around having sheets of the Death Note all over the place. Everyone who well, let's not get into that. And the craziest part of the end is that they're playing this song in the background, The Power of Love. And it's sort of like going in and out, and it's the power of love, and it's this big, bold song, and it's like, this is how you're choosing to end a movie about a kid who's just gotten finished killing like thousands of people. Right? The power of love? Whose power of love? He just killed his girlfriend. The power of love where? Like, how? Where in this story? Is this a love story? Where is the love story here? Someone please tell me. The original was not a love story. It was a murder mystery. It's cat and mouse. If anything, the love story is between Elle and Light. Not to sound weird, but they have this. They respect each other's intelligence. They respect what's going on. They respect the magnitude of what's happening. The power of love. And it just threw me off. Like, if you were gonna end it that way, it's like that. But just, you need some kind of brooding song, like the song they played after it was what they should have used. It just sort of ended without ending, and it seems like they're coming out with a sequel, and I don't know how I feel about it. I want them to finish this, but not the way that they're doing it. It seems a little bit out there. Now, one thing that they seem to sort of leave out in this version of Death Note is the societal impact of what's going on. In the original, because having your name known, having your face known, and people will email Kira and tell him that they did something bad to you and he's going to kill you. Society sort of breaks down. People don't talk to each other. People are afraid of each other. People are afraid of being tattletaled on. It's a net negative. The world is not a better place because of him. To him it is, but to everyone else who's living in this, you can be killed at any minute because you made somebody angry. And so it sort of stifles any kind of social interaction because you can't make somebody unhappy. It was a missed opportunity for them to sort of introduce that a little bit. Another piece of what they sort of hinted at but didn't really nail was that there were people who were in favor of this. Sort of like Dexter, where you have this sort of conversation about someone who kills killers. Is that really street justice, or is that a bad thing? if you know it, if you know they did it, is that really a bad thing? They sort of skid around this, but Light has people who are following him. It's clear in this because so Elle is doing some other thing that Elle does not do, and he like encounters him in like some alley, and this guy comes over and he's like, "This is Kira. Help me arrest him." And the guy like beams him in the head. Okay, I get it. I understand that. That makes sense. But you have to show me that this is what's going on. There are people like this. The show, they do that. In the second episode, they show you that there are people who like this. There are people who are willing to follow him because they believe in this. And towards the end, he has people who are actually helping him do this. And so for the end to have it all be some kind of mind control, that he had mind control these people that he was going to kill later, it's sort of it was an opportunity for them to show that there are people who support this. And that is that would be an interesting thing to explore in this movie. The other thing is, to get into the mind control now, is that the rules of the book have changed now. The mind control one is you can control somebody's actions for 2 days. So, like, you have up to 2 days for them to do something. So, the way this worked, the reason that they added this is that at some point he mind controls one of Elle's helpers into trying to look for his name, right? And it doesn't work out because Ryuk gets in the middle of it. It's almost like they were trying to put this off on Ryuk. Like, he wanted to just watch chaos. He just wanted to watch. To have him do what he did in this made it sort of put him in the middle of this, where he should just be on the side. Ryuk was just a whole other thing, but we're talking about the rules. The other rule that they changed, where is it? Another rule that they altered was that touching the book did not make them able to see Ryuk. And so Misa, they even go at a great length to show you that it didn't work, right? So Light has Misa touch the book, and he's like, "Oh, do you see him? Do you see him?" And she's like, "No, I don't see him." And then Ryuk explains that, there's the keeper of the book, and whoever has the book at the time for 7 days becomes the person who can. But the keeper isn't the only person who can use the Death Note, right? Because there's other situations where people have written names, and it works out. So why did you do that? I don't get how that was helpful. Why making Misa unable to see Ryuk? Because then it fixes other issues that you have. If someone just being able to touch a page in the Death Note makes them able to see what's going on, or to see Ryuk, that makes more sense. Another rule that they changed was that when you lose your Death Note, you don't lose your memory of it. And so Light loses his book, Misa has the book, and he's still aware of what's going on. He's not completely clueless of what's happening. And it just sort of changes it was just an odd decision to make, where you're saying that if you touch the Death Note, you don't, even if you touch the Death Note, you don't see Ryuk, but anyone can write down a name in the book to kill somebody. Why? This doesn't make any kind of logical sense inside the world that they created, but, let's move on. Ryuk, they did okay, but they changed some things where it was almost like they wanted to put a lot of this on him. They wanted to put some of the responsibility, like it was this Faustian bargain that Ryuk offered Light, and, he took it almost because he had to. He was sort of scared into killing his first person, whereas in the original, he doesn't even, he's killed many people before Ryuk even shows up. This is a choice that Light is making. Whereas in this, it's sort of like he's peer pressured into writing a name because he's scared of this demon that's basically telling him, this is true, you should do this, just test it out, don't you want to do it, come on, man, you want to. It was just very odd. Some small things with him where, the thing with the apples, in my view, that is how a human would finish off an apple, or a wasteful human would finish off an apple. In my view, Ryuk should have eaten basically to the core of that apple, the whole thing to the core, because this is a demon who doesn't get apples very often. He's not going to leave any flesh on the bone, you know what I mean? Alright, so let's get to Elle. We haven't really explained. They did Elle decently. It's an odd character to put on screen live action. He's weird, he's odd. The actor did well. He did well with what he was given, I think. Some things that they could have, they made Elle emotional. They made him yell and scream, and he's shooting at people, and he's getting into foot races, and it was just, he did some very uncharacteristic Elle things, right? So he hides his face for part of the movie, and then after that, he doesn't hide his face. I get why, the actor wants people to see what he looks like and everything, but if the point is that they need your name, and they can't get your name, then hiding your face really doesn't do anything, but that's a small piece of it. They had him eating candy, massive amounts of candy. One, those should have been sugar cubes, right? Those should have been sugar cubes, and if they wanted him eating candy, it should have been chocolate. That would have been a nod to what everybody was hoping was going to happen in this movie, and it didn't. But it seems like they might be doing that in the sequel, depending on what goes on. But for the most part, Elle was he sort of disappears at the end. He winds up in Misa's room, and he's going to write Light's name down, and he's contemplating murdering somebody. This isn't what Elle does. No, he's a detective, right? I mean, if he grabbed the death note, he would have called 911. He would have called the father and said, get the hell out of there, he's going to kill you. The death note is real. It's a book, and if they write your name down, you're going to die. It was just, if they're setting up a sequel, this makes sense, but it's just very, very different. This is going a little long. Some things that they could have did to make it a little bit easier, or just to ease the characters in. I think a lot of this was revolved around Misa and Light, and that way that she got brought on could have been closer to the way the show was, right? In my view, they could have had her sort of figure it out, right? She knows that this guy punched Light before he died, and he was in detention or whatever, and she punched Light. And then she hears that the guy who killed his mother also died the day after. And so she can put two and two together and say, this has something to do with you, and you're walking around with something called a death note. What's going on here? And at least that would have shown you that she's there, right? She's thinking, she's aware. It almost seemed like they wanted that she got a lot of the Light attributes in this. It almost should have been about her, and they should have given her the book, because she would have been more interesting to see what she would have done with it. Basically, what this boils down to, because of all of this, is this sort of like teenager romantic thing. It was an odd decision to make Light weak for Misa, where all she had to do was say I love you, and now Light's forgotten that she's trying to kill his dad, and he wants to share the death noting in with her, even though shortly after that he says that he's not going to listen to her. It's very odd that they chose to make this some kind of lovers' quarrel. You got Misa writing his name in the book. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, I could keep going on, but I think I've said pretty much what I need to say. I don't think it was horrible. I think it was good for what it was. I think that they could have done better with Misa's character, with Light's character, definitely. He seemed to only be smart when he was using the Death Note, and every other time he was just sort of an average 16-year-old in what they would do. He did not seem to be a mastermind. He seemed to be more of someone who was just dealing with the stuff that was being thrown at him. And it's a different show to watch. Now, what they could have done to sort of fix some of their issues that they had was stick closer to basically the first episode of the show, where Light gets the Death Note, he uses it, he proves that it works, he realizes what he wants to do, he wants to become a god, and then Reveiw shows up and basically proves to him that this is really happening, it's not a dream, and they move on from there. Misa finds out who Light is and is threatening to expose him unless he allows her to hang out with him and allows her to help her. And then it moves on from there. In my view, Misa's name should have been Lisa. That would have, I think, you're changing her name. You're not Mia. That's not a big enough change in my view. Name her Lisa. That's closer. Make her popular. Make her someone that everybody likes. Someone that gives Light cover. Now, Light, in my view, his name should not have been Light. His name probably should have been Dwight Turner. And then his killer's name becomes Light, right? And so then you could have people say, we're seeing the light, or we're following the light. This is the way we should be. This is light. The way that they included the Japanese thing, that was interesting. That was fun. And that was well done. But I think it would have been cooler to sort of name him differently. I just think that it would have added something instead of sort of just trying to copy everything. Because it seemed like they were trying to tell a different story. They were telling a lover's quarrel. And so let it be something separate. And they could even have Light's name be in the book, right? And so this is sort of the continuation. This is not a sequel, but this is sort of a retelling of, or a different story in the same sort of concept. Um, so this has gone long. This is a little longer than I wanted it to be. It's probably a little rambly, but this is sort of the show that I got that really got me into anime and watching it in Japanese. I remember I'm a little dated. I remember watching it on Toonami late at night or Adult Swim when it was on in English, and then I watched it in Japanese. And the subtitles were much better than what it is that they were saying. It was it was a lot harder. There was a lot more to what Light was saying than what they were translating. But so this anime has a strong place in my heart, and to see what they did to it, where a lot of these issues that they had were avoidable, easily avoidable. Um, all in all, it was decent. It was okay. They could have added an extra 10 minutes of sort of building. There was 10 minutes of credits, so it's an hour and a half. They could have done a little more, I think. But that's just my humble opinion. This is Super Twisted. This has been long, and I'll see you in the next one.